one, if you know what the state of the law is in your country on surrogacy, if you could tell us about that. And the second question, I'm going to read out the question now. She says, I would be interested in hearing about the state of trans rights activism ideology in schools. What's happening in schools? Is gender ideology being taught? And are children being pushed into identifying as trans in schools?
We got a surrogacy law which was approved in 2016, and since then it has been vetoed twice by the Constitutional Court. So at the moment we have a law which is not valid. So the first version of the law, which was voted on 2016, was only vetoed on 2018. So for a period it was, people were using it. And it was vetoed because it failed to address the possibility of the surrogate mother changing her mind. So the law only addressed the possibility of withdrawal of consent before the process of artificial insemination, etc., went on, started. Sorry. Since then, the law went back to Parliament to change that part of the law, and one of the parties, the left bloc, tried to make a measure being approved, which would allow the surrogate mother to change her mind and up until the child will be registered. That would mean about 20 days after the birth, but the proposal failed to be approved because two right-wing parties and the Communist Party voted against. Two of them because they are against surrogacy, and the other one because they didn't want to approve the possibility of the mother changing, the surrogate mother changing her mind. So they approved the law, which still had the same problem that the Constitutional Court didn't like. And so it went again to the Constitutional Court and failed again to be approved. So what's happening now is that people are using surrogacy abroad. So since it's not legal in Portugal. And we know that since 2000, there are some news in the newspaper saying that there were around 150 children which would probably have been born through surrogacy. I would like to say something still about the surrogacy law, which is that the law that had been approved said that surrogacy would involve a contract where it had to be guaranteed that there was no payment or donation to the pregnant woman. Which would try to involve to put surrogacy as a business, which is what is happening everywhere. So when the law was vetoed by the Constitutional Court, the contracts were annulled at the time. Regarding the second question, as I told you during my presentation, our law of gender identity has a part which says that it should be promoted, the gender identity ideology in schools. But even before that, because that is starting now, I know that some of the LGBT associations had programs about visiting schools and giving them information about transgender ideology, and that has been going on for years. But now apparently it's going to be something more promoted by the state, not just the LGBT organizations.
Yeah, unfortunately, Serbia now has a law which is still a draft law. It still didn't. The draft law wasn't still submitted. They are still working on it. Which the civil law, which actually introduces surrogacy for the first time in Serbia. And what is very disturbing is that actually, I mean, the whole thing is disturbing. But the most problematic part is the fact that they are actually, that in law it is allowed to award a woman that will carry a child with the amount between 8,000 and 50,000 euro in a country where an average salary is 250 euros, and where majority of women cannot have the any type of monetary compensation during the maternity leave due to the laws that have been brought in the couple of last few years, and which basically means that we are going to become a new country for a new surrogacy paradise next to Ukraine. And when the whole accident with the Ukrainian baby during the coronavirus crisis happened, there was quite a few articles that have been published in Serbian newspapers, and it really echoed in the public. And a few organizations have addressed this issue. Women organizations particularly have spoken about the Autonomous Women's Center previously as the most influential women organization in Serbia, and they have actually protested against the law in 2016, when was the last time that they have tried to incorporate the surrogacy into the law. They are still they have a very clear stance against surrogacy, but they've been less vocal about it. Another organization that I have mentioned, the Mark 21, they have been quite vocal about it. However, the lobby, the surrogacy lobby, especially people who are dealing with infertility, organizations who are gathering people who are dealing with infertility, are quite strong. And especially because this was an issue in our country. This was an issue that was easy to use by populists and politicians, because we have a very low birth rate, and there are a lot of people struggling with infertility. So this was like, okay, this is basically, this is how they sugarcoat it. They're enabling people who have been seeking to have their own children for ages to finally become parents. And this is very, this is a general, let's say, atmosphere, and people are generally very much supportive of it. Nobody wants to question this at all. And I'm afraid that the law is going to be passed, and there won't be any type of there won't be an adequate reaction to stop the law of passing. And I'm expecting that the next year. I think that women organizations have kind of already gave up on the idea that they will be able to stop it, unfortunately. Hopefully there will be more reactions from them, but that's that for now. And when it comes to transgender agenda in schools, we don't have that, because our curricula is very much outdated. So there's also no same-sex marriage. The homophobia is quite, we are still dealing with a curricula who is highly homophobic and highly misogynist. So this is not an issue for us so far yet.
In South Korea, there's a law that bans commercial selling or buying eggs, but there is no law that bans or regulates surrogacy. And in Korea, in the past, men with means used to exploit women outside marriage to get a son they could not get from their wives. And wives used to have to just accept this kind of situation. We don't have statistics or research done on how many people are using commercial surrogacy. But there was one case in 2018 where a rich married couple hired a Korean surrogate mother and took her to US to have her deliver her baby there. Many rich people do this to so that their child can have American citizenship. And when they came back to Korea and tried to register the birth of the baby, the civil office refused their request because there was another woman's name written as the birth mother on the birth certificate issued by the US hospital. So the couple took this case to the court, and the court fortunately ruled that the birth mother has natural rights as mother, so they cannot accept this request. And last year, there was this incident that a commercial surrogacy company called Blood, they are based in Hong Kong, I believe. They sponsored a queer festival of Korea. And when radical feminists found out about this, women heavily criticized the queer festival organization, and many women declared they are going to boycott the Pride March. Eventually, the festival organizers canceled the sponsorship, but they were very ambivalent about surrogacy issues, and this led to enrage more women even more. Regarding transgenderism in schools, we don't have programs to promote transgenderism among children, but one problematic thing I can think of is our law requires middle schools, high schools, and universities to have annual anti-sexual violence education or about gender equality. So the schools invite lecturers for this once a year, and most lecturers, brainwashed about the gender identity, because all the women's studies textbooks tell that this is a progressive thing. So they tell students that there is gender, and which this is gender does not necessarily match their body, and it is okay to seek transition. I think that's problematic.